If you've ever been told, I'm sorry, your child isn't a good fit, then this episode's for you. I want to talk about a different kind of respite, one built for adults with severe autism or multiple IDDs. I'll share a bit of our son's story and why we helped start the J13 community here in Austin, Texas, and how we've shaped respite to be safe, growth-oriented, and believe it or not, something that our guys actually look forward to. Then I'll end with a practical checklist you can use to evaluate respite options where you live. When most people say respite, they're thinking about short-term relief for caregivers of seniors or the elderly. Now, that model assumes relatively low staffing needs, predictable outcomes, and quiet homes. If you're parenting an adult with profound autism or other special needs like those with profound autism, you already know that's simply not our world. For instance, our son's 35. He's nonverbal and he uses an iPad to communicate. He has seizures and pica behavior. Bedwetting happens. And if you don't know how to read him, if you miss the cues, his behavior can escalate quickly. Now, he's 5'11", about 170 pounds, and he's pretty darn strong. So to feel safe, for him to grow, he needs a trained colleague with him from morning to night. Typical outside the home senior respite setup just doesn't even scratch the surface of what our son needs, and probably your adult severely autistic child needs as well. So here's some of the things to consider. Intermittent, sometimes intense aggression, punching, biting, hair pulling. Can the respite program you're looking at address those things? Communication differences that drive frustration. Many folks like our son need an augmented communication device to be heard. Co-occurring medical needs, like seizures and swallowing risk or sleep issues. And almost all of them need familiarity and routine and structure, which makes any new place a pretty steep climb. So we started with a different premise than what you're typically going to see in the respite care, probably in your community, that's tailored more for seniors or the elderly. First of all, no one gets kicked out for behavior. We build for behavior. That means a thorough intake, brutal honesty on both sides, and a culture that puts your adult child's safety and dignity first, instead of what's just most convenient for the staff. It means developing protocols for the hard stuff, training constantly, and refusing to shame the person who's struggling in the moment. Peter Drucker said, culture eats strategy for breakfast. And that's what our program's all about, building the right culture. You can have great plans, but if the staff doesn't believe this person belongs here, the moment things get tough, doors close. At J13, belonging is simply non-negotiable. Here's what we learned works. You start with a day program that launches from the respite house. That house becomes a positive association. There are friends there, the routine's there, it's fun before anyone sleeps over. Our days aren't spent cloistered on a campus or locked in a room most of the day. Rather, they're out in the community. Our whole crew's out in the community. It might be an adaptive climbing gym like Crux climbing centers or outdoor parks with swimming. If it is indoor, it might be a trampoline venue where there's lots of bouncing up and down, or outside again with healing with horses. And of course, there's basic vocational practice that goes on in a lot of these venues. Most importantly, though, everything's always tailored, always supported. Do real life in real places with staff who know how to pre-teach, how to prompt, how to reinforce, and most importantly, in some cases, how to de-escalate. Once trust is built between participants, between the staff and parents, then overnights can begin. Because the house already feels familiar, the first night, less of a cliff, it's much more of a gentle step forward. Our son now actually gets giddy when he knows he's headed back for a weekend. And the way he laughs when he's getting ready to go, it's just so cool, right? It's just, you're doing the right thing. We don't try to erase autism. We don't try to erase your child's challenges. We accept them and we amplify their strengths. So our son's superpowers include basketball, an infectious laugh, and a talent, believe it or not, for getting his buddies off the couch, out of their chairs, and into the day, out into the community. And your adult child has superpowers too. Let me state that again. Your adult child actually has superpowers, and we are going to discover those, and we're going to help build on those. So that's our job, to notice them, to build a program around them, then to rechannel the tough behaviors, the aggressive stuff, so it doesn't get in the way of them building on their strengths and their opportunity to grow. Here's some of the nuts and bolts of what we've learned the hard way. Staffing, you've got to start with a low ratio, like 1-to-1, maybe 2-to-3, maybe 3-to-5, with the right mix of skills and personality. Then we might pair someone like our son who's higher support with someone that's moderate support, and they develop this big brother relationship. And it's really cool to watch how special that is. And we train relentlessly in crisis prevention, seizure response, PICA protocols, even safe holds you hope you never have to use. And then each person's special way to communicate. Now let's talk about communication. Everybody speaks in some form. Everybody communicates in some form. It can be verbal, it can be gestures, or perhaps it's through an iPad. So maybe your child uses Proloquo. Our child uses Touch Chat. Whatever the app is, the staff have to learn it. Communication isn't nice to have. It's a safety plan, and it's the biggest way to moderate frustration and avoid meltdowns. House setup, separate house changes the game. We put the cameras and the motion center sensors in the shared areas. And of course, we use the locking food storage, medication protocols. We provide multiple sensory safe spaces for calming. We set up outdoor activity zones where the noise isn't going to trigger neighborhood complaints. As far as transportation, we have one 15-person van right now, but that's probably not going to cut it. So we're already planning to fundraise for a second van. As trust grows, so does your radius. And vans equal freedom and they equal flexibility, and they often equal fun. So we want to prevent we can't go because we can't get there ever happening. On-ramps. We've had luck with the short test drives. We did several 3-week summer camps this last summer, or even a half-day visit to sort of show parents and the transitions coordinators at schools how this works before the overnights begin. But the progress, the grin on your kid's face when they're just 5 feet up that climbing wall at a Crux climbing gym, that's going to sell itself. You're going to be amazed. And then, of course, the community of parents. Build a critical mass. When several families share the same values and the same honesty, you can cover cost. You can share wisdom. You can give each other the real gift of respite, which is time and peace of mind. So here's the outcome we see. Adults who are safe, known, and engaged. Parents who can exhale, who can take a weekend away or even a week-long trip because they trust the team and they trust the plan. And yes, this is also the best rehearsal for residential living later. The muscles you build in respite, routine, relationships, and regulation, are the same muscles you'll use for a successful move out. If your experience of respite has been a series of closed doors, please don't give up. Look for the places that are designed for your adult child, not around them. The right culture, the right training, and the right house can transform no fit here into this home is for you. This home is your home base outside of your parents' home. Because where severe autism finds community, families find rest. Now I'm going to take you through the respite program checklist. We're also going to provide a link in the show notes where you can download this checklist if you'd like. And this is broken into several sections. So section 1 is philosophy and culture. No expulsion for behavior, period, with a clear written crisis protocol that you can review. Thorough intake that invites full honesty about aggression, seizures, PICA behavior, elopement, sleep, etc. Our intake process is unlike anything any parent's gone before, and several parents have told us how much they appreciate it. I can't believe you're asking all these questions, but I know why you're asking them, and I really think this is going to make a difference. Okay, strength-based programming. What are your kids' superpowers, and how are they used daily, and how can we lean into those? And always dignity first. De-escalation over punishment. Words of encouragement instead of no, 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 no. Okay, second group, staff and training. Initial, low staffing, 1-to-1. Maybe you ramp up to 2 to 3 or 3 to 5, depending upon the support needs of your child. And then, of course, you can pair a moderate support person with a higher support person, and that brotherly relationship or that big sister, little sister relationship develops, and it's magic to see what they're able to do together. Look for credentials and lived competence, BCBA involvement, special ed, IDD experience, seizure and PICA training, etc. Augmented and alternative communication literate team. Every staffer has to be trained on each person's device, the apps they use, and their core vocabulary, because they're never exactly the same, right? Ongoing drills, crisis prevention, medication errors, elopement, nighttime response, bedwetting protocols, etc. Okay, now in the health and safety space, medical readiness. What are the seizure plans? How are meds administered? Where are the logs? What are the safeguards for PICA behavior? Are there environmental sweeps done to make sure things aren't just sitting around that could be, eaten quickly and swallowed? Environment. Is the food secured? Are the chemicals locked away? Are the motion sensors in the halls working? Are there chimes on all the points of entry or exit? Transportation, reliable vans, driver training, and then elopement-aware loading and unloading routines. Documentation, incident reporting, parent notifications, trend reviews to improve plans. And then the overall program design. We think it's just hugely important you start with a day program. Consistent outings in the community, not campus isolation. Everybody gets to know everybody else. And then a predictable structure, but with flexible supports. Different types of schedule, visual schedule, ways to encourage choice making, natural reinforcement, multiple activity zones, quiet room, active room, outside areas. And it's easy to switch when different things happen and you need to move someone outside to have some fun on the basketball court. They've got a little bit of extra energy, or maybe into the quiet room if they're getting a little bit overstimulated. Sleepover on-ramps, gradual exposure to the house before that first overnight. And then, of course, familiar staff at bedtime. Home and neighborhood, a separate house associated with positive routines. Not just some place that's got sort of that rental feel or a big institutional feel. Noise-aware layout and placement of active spaces relative to the neighbors. And then practical modifications, right? A locking fridge, locking pantry, locking everything in terms of what's in the kitchen, safe drawers, durable furnishings, wipeable surfaces, and then technology that helps, not surveils, right? So cameras in the common areas, alarms that cue the staff without, screaming loudly or sirens going off and then the residents are upset or shaming residents. Family partnership, transparent policies, what the program can and can't handle, when they call you, when you call them, how they review incidents, and then data and debriefs, regular updates on wins, on the triggers, on the progress, and what adjustments can be co-planned with the family as everyone progresses on this journey. And then a community among parents, shared values, mutual support, and then realistic expectations for growth. If a program can walk you through these items with specific examples, not just platitudes or slogans, you're on the right track. Next week, I'm going to talk a little bit more about our vision for residential. Have a great rest of your week. See ya.